Today's news from Korea. Analysts have been raised that the status of Samsung Electronics, the world's #1 in semiconductor sales, may be shaken from the third quarter. Following last year, Samsung Electronics has overtaken Intel in the US and maintains the world's top spot this year. However, from the second half of this year, as the memory semiconductor market enters into a sharp recession, it is predicted that TSMC, the No. IC Insights, a market research firm, announced that it has lowered the growth rate of the IC semiconductor market this year by 3 percentage points from 11% announced in February to 7%. IC Insights explained that the reason for the downward revision of the growth rate was almost entirely due to the collapse of the memory market in the second half of this year. Due to the recent slowdown in demand for PCs and smartphones, the transaction price of memory semiconductors is also plummeting. The bad news that has come to the memory semiconductor market heightens the sense of crisis among Korean semiconductor companies. IC Insights predicted that due to a sharp decline in semiconductor sales, the sales ranking of Samsung Electronics, the No. After that, it was expected that TSMC, a foundry company, would rise to the throne in the semiconductor market. According to IC Insights analysis, Samsung Electronics posted sales of $22.623 billion in the second quarter, surpassing Intel. However, Samsung Electronics' third quarter sales forecast was estimated at $18.29 billion. This is a decline of 19% from the previous quarter. On the other hand, IC Insights predicted that TSMC's sales would increase 11% from $18.164 billion in the second quarter to $20.2 billion in the third quarter. It is predicted that the company will generate 9.5% more sales than Samsung Electronics during the same period. On the other hand, Intel is expected to reach $15.04 billion in the third quarter, an increase of 1% from the previous quarter, showing signs of falling to third place in sales. The heyday of foundry companies, led by TSMC, can continue for a considerable period of time. IC Insights pointed out that the recent plunge in memory semiconductor prices was due to large-scale inventory adjustments. Most people expect the inventory adjustment period to be extended until at least early 2023, IC Insights said. However, Samsung Electronics also appears to be concentrating its capabilities on responding to the crisis, such as making preemptive investments despite the recession in the memory semiconductor market. Samsung Electronics is building a semiconductor R&D complex in Jihyung, Gyeonggi Province, by investing about 20 trillion won by 2028. In addition, following the operation of Samsung Electronics' Pyeongtaek campus third plant, it is also preparing to start construction of Line 4 to preemptively respond to future semiconductor demand. The new plant plans to further diversify its sales structure by securing not only memory but also foundry production facilities such as system semiconductors. In particular, there is a forecast that TSMC will not allow a turnaround since large-scale mergers and acquisitions related to semiconductors are being considered. Another way to increase the value of Samsung Electronics semiconductor business is through mergers and acquisitions, said Gyeonggi Hyung, president and CEO of Samsung Electronics, in a recent meeting with reporters. Although we cannot say specifically, we are considering the acquisition by setting priorities based on the target of mergers and acquisitions. The number of new coronavirus cases has fallen to 70,000. The number of patients with severe cases also fell below 516 days. However, there are concerns that this Chuseok holiday, which runs for 4 days from the 9th, may act as an opportunity for respreading as it is the first holiday without social distancing since the corona pandemic. The Central Quarantine Countermeasures Headquarters announced that there were 72,646 new confirmed cases as of midnight on the 8th. It was the lowest in 7 weeks as of Thursday. Compared to last week's 81,573, the number decreased by 8,927. Since the fourth week of August, the infection reproduction index has also been maintained, which has fallen below 1, meaning containment of the epidemic. On this day, the number of patients with severe serious illness fell below 500 for the first time in 16 days to 493. However, there were 64 deaths, bringing the total to 27,313. Although the downward trend of the refashion that started in early July is clear, most analysts say that the sixth wave is unlikely to be the last wave within the year. The immediate risk factor is the Chuseok holiday, which starts on the 9th. This is the first holiday since social distancing was completely lifted in April, but this year, there are no special quarantine rules applied before or after the holidays. Earlier, the government made it clear that it would focus on checking and instruction and promotion rather than state-centered control over Chuseok quarantine. Physical distancing is only implemented in facilities vulnerable to infection, such as nursing hospitals and facilities, where high-risk groups are concentrated. In addition to the abolition of the duty of inspection before entry for overseas travelers and exemption from toll fees at rest areas on highways, eating and drinking at rest areas, buses and trains are also permitted. It is expected that it will be inevitable to some extent that the movement and gatherings, which will increase during the holidays, will have an impact on the spread. A twindemic scenario, in which winter influenza and corona are prevalent at the same time, is also discussed. Meanwhile, during the Chuseok holiday, the first holiday to be celebrated without social distancing since the coronavirus, 525 emergency rooms will be open 24 hours a day across the country. Corona testing is also available at local hospitals, clinics, and screening clinics. 525 emergency rooms are open during the Chuseok holiday. Private medical institutions such as local hospitals and clinics have an average of 2,499 a day during the holidays, and pharmacies are 3,802. The At-Home Treatment Medical Consultation Center, which calls for inquiries from corona-confirmed patients undergoing home treatment, will operate normally during the holiday period, with more than 150 during the day and 140 at night. The global luxury brand Gucci fashion show will eventually be held in Korea as scheduled. Gucci Korea announced on the 8th that the fashion show of the Gucci Cosmogony collection will be presented at Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul on November 1. Recently, several controversies surrounding the Blue House sparked a spark of sparks even at the Gucci fashion show, but Gucci Korea decided to proceed as scheduled after careful consideration with the headquarters. Cosmogony is a new collection created by Alessandro Michele, creative director of Gucci, inspired by astronomical objects such as constellations. Last May, the first fashion show was held at Castel del Monte, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in southern Italy. Gucci selected Gyeongbokgung Palace in Korea as the location for its second fashion show after reviewing various locations around the world. At that time, Gucci said, "Through this event, we want to publicize the historical value of Gyeongbokgung Palace, where world-class astronomy was studied, and the theme of the astronomy-inspired fashion show at home and abroad, and furthermore, share and communicate related knowledge with citizens." Applied accordingly, on the 16th of last month, the Subcommittee on Cultural Heritage was held and decided that it would be a good opportunity to promote the heritage value of Gyeongbokgung to the world. The approval was conditionally approved with the following proviso: it must be verified clearly and let the public interest aspect be revealed naturally. Gucci's fashion show was held at Castel del Monte, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in southern Italy in May. Gucci YouTube capture. However, since then, the situation has changed as the controversy over the Vogue fashion pictorial has been heated in various places including politics. On the 29th of last month, most of the media reported that it was cancelled by lightning, but on the same day, the Seoul Shimbun confirmed multiple times at Gyeongbokgung Palace, Gucci Korea and the Cultural Heritage Administration, and there was no actual decision to cancel. A high-ranking official at Gyeongbokgung Palace said, "I communicated with Gucci frequently, but Gucci never said that I should quit. There was no political consideration at all." The official said, "Gucci not only pursues its own commercial properties, but also thinks that it has historical significance among the best historical sites in the world and is helpful for their collection, so I think they decided to hold it in Korea. I think it's an opportunity," he said. Gucci Korea said, "This fashion show held at Gyeongbokgung Palace, one of the most symbolic and historic places in Seoul, contains Gucci's respect for the beauty of Korean cultural heritage. We are meeting the conditions, and we are delighted to be able to prepare for a successful fashion show at Gyeongbokgung Palace. It is also true that the Cultural Heritage Administration, which suffered from the controversy surrounding the Blue House, passed without a problem if it was cancelled. Nevertheless, he did not cancel Gyeongbokgung Palace as an opportunity to introduce it to the world. In fact, Monte Castle, where the first fashion show was held, is known to have become even more world famous after the fashion show." An official from the Cultural Heritage Administration said, "It is a fashion show that has already been verified in Italy, and there was a public opinion that it was an opportunity to publicize it globally," said. From this year, those who inevitably become a second homeowner due to moving or inheritance will be recognized as a single homeowner and receive tax benefits. In addition, elderly and long-term owners among single homeowners will also be able to defer payment of comprehensive real estate tax until disposal. The National Assembly held a plenary session on the afternoon of the 7th and passed a bill to amend the Tax Act with this content. According to the amendment, if a new house is acquired for moving, but the old house is not disposed of, if the house is inherited, or if a local low-priced house is owned for no speculative purpose, the status of a single owner will be recognized. However, if a new house is purchased for moving, the existing house must be transferred within 2 years, and inherited houses are excluded from the calculation of the number of houses for 5 years. For low-priced local houses, only one additional property is allowed. Inheritance, gift, or transfer of a house if, as a single homeowner, 60 years of age or older as of the taxation date, owning the current house for 5 years or more, gross salary of 70 million won or global income of 60 million won or less, and the estate tax exceeds 1 million won in the current year, deferment of tax payment until. With the passage of the bill, the basic deduction amount for single homeowners has also increased from 600 million won to 1.1 billion won. It is estimated that about 184,000 people will be burdened with the tax burden with this amendment, which will take effect from the end of November. POSCO Pohang Works, which suffered flood damage due to Typhoon Hinamno, is speeding up restoration work. POSCO plans to start operating 3 furnaces in the Pohang Works sequentially from the 10th. Previously, all 3 furnaces at Pohang Works were temporarily suspended in the aftermath of a typhoon. It is the first time in 49 years since Pohang Steel Works started producing molten iron in 1973. On the 8th, POSCO announced, the 3 furnaces of the Pohang Works, which are currently on hiatus, will be operated sequentially from the 10th. The Songgang substation, which suffered flood damage, will be normalized this morning, and the desalination water facility and LNG power plant will be repaired one after the other by the 9th to supply steam and oxynitrogen necessary for the early operation of the blast furnace. The goal is to normalize the rolling substation by the 10th and complete the power recovery at the steel mill. POSCO has established a policy to operate the steel-making plant during the Chuseok holiday by linking it to handle the molten iron produced in the blast furnace. As a result of the typhoon damage, most of POSCO's underground facilities in Pohang Works were flooded. Currently, extensive drainage work for underground facilities is in progress, and the Gyeongbuk Fire Department has provided 8 large water pumps, and 3 shipbuilding companies including Hyundai Heavy Industries, which support a total of 78 water pumps and emergency generators, explained that flood recovery is progressing at a fast pace. A POSCO official said, during the Chuseok holiday, employees of Pohang Works, as well as employees of the Gwangyang Works, will adjust the operation plan to support recovery, a POSCO official said. Meanwhile, the sales of Pohang Works last year amounted to 18.49 trillion won. In simple calculations, the daily turnover is about 50.7 billion won. Failure to operate the steel mill would result in a loss of more than 50 billion won every day. In particular, the company is concentrating its efforts on early normalization as there are concerns that the blast furnace will be damaged and cause enormous damage if the shutdown of the blast furnace is prolonged. With Vice Chairman Kim Hak-dong as the head, POSCO formed a Typhoon Disaster Recovery TF, which includes executives related to facilities, production/sales, technology, and safety, and is seeking to quickly normalize operations. POSCO Group Chairman Choi Jong-woo also visited the Pohang Works on the 6th to inspect the damaged areas such as flooded areas and substations, and presided over an emergency response meeting at the site. Korea's electric vehicle exports are ranked 4th in the world. Germany, the United States, and China are ranked 1st to 3rd in that order. Korea's electric vehicle exports increased by 112.2% compared to 2019, before the COVID-19 outbreak. The proportion of electric vehicles in total automobile exports also reached 15.8% last year, nearly double that of 2019. Korea's main export regions for electric vehicles are the United States and Europe, and in the United States in the first half of this year, it ranked 2nd in market share after Tesla for the first time. Hyundai Motor had a market share of 9%, and Tesla, the number 1, had a 75% market share. In addition, in Germany and the UK, the 2nd and 3rd exporting countries, the market share in the first half of this year was ranked 4th and 3rd, and the ranking continues to rise. Last year, Hyundai Kia Motors ranked 5th in the global F sales rankings by car brand. Hyundai Kia Motors Group's electric vehicle sales were 340,000 units, ranking 5th after Tesla with 1.05 million units in the US, 710,000 units by Volkswagen in Germany, 600,000 units by BYD in China and 520,000 units by General Motors in the US. The earthquake that struck Sichuan province in China has caused a lot of casualties, including at least 65 deaths, and the Chinese authorities have maintained the Corona-19 lockdown measures in the area, causing controversy. In Chengdu, a capital city with a population of 21 million, the lockdown has prevented residents from leaving their apartments. According to foreign media on the 6th, a video is being shared on Chinese social media in which agents in protective suits blocked Chengdu residents trying to escape through the locked apartment lobby entrance. The day before, a magnitude 6.8 earthquake occurred in Luding County, Ganzhejiang Autonomous Prefecture, 220 kilometers southwest of Chengdu City, Sichuan Province. Thereafter, there were 13 aftershocks until the 7th, and the residents were terrified. In the affected area, it is known that major damage has occurred, such as cut-off roads and communication and collapse of buildings. In the midst of this, the city of Chengdu announced that it will extend the corona lockdown until 7 days, prohibiting all residents from going out. The authorities initially announced on the 1st that they would ban going out until the night of the 4th and suspend public transportation and school operations. 65 million Chinese are currently under lockdown measures in 33 cities, including 7 provinces, The Guardian said. Told. Criticism poured in for the fact that residents of Chengdu were trapped in buildings even when the powerful earthquake caused casualties. Referring to the April-May lockdown in Shanghai, Bloomberg noted that the harsh lockdown in Shanghai is raising fears that it will be repeated again. The Associated Press also said, Chengdu is the place where the strongest lockdown measures have been implemented since the Shanghai lockdown despite the small number of confirmed cases. As the controversy grew, the city of Chengdu announced on the night of the 5th how to respond in case of an emergency. In the event of earthquakes, fires, floods and other disasters during the epidemic control period, ensuring the life and safety of the people should be a priority, the authorities said, but we should not completely eliminate the corona control. If circumstances permit, individuals should protect themselves from the coronavirus and evacuate safely, and minimize physical contact when gathered, he added. The government announced on the 7th the plan to reorganize the committees by consolidating 246 out of a total of 636 government committees. The plan is to organize a large number of unnecessary plant committees because there are hardly any meetings after the installation or because their functions are similar to those of government departments. That means 4 out of 10 government committees will disappear. The presidential office also decided to abolish 13 out of 20 committees directly under the president. The presidential office also completed the first round of replacing 50 or so of the secretary-level or lower personnel along with the organization to lose weight. At a briefing on the same day, the presidential office and the Ministry of the Interior and Safety announced that they plan to present a bill to amend the statute to the cabinet meeting within this month. Among the 246 committees subject to reorganization, including consolidation, 13 committees belonging to the president were included. The National Education Council, the 4th Industrial Revolution Committee, the Northern Economic Cooperation Committee, and the Military Network Investigation Committee will be abolished without extension, and the National Human Resources Committee, which has not been formed since 2009, will also be abolished. The remaining 7, including the National Intellectual Property Committee, will be changed to belong to the Prime Minister or ministries, and the Autonomy and Decentralization Committee and the National Balanced National Development Committee will be integrated into the Local Era Committee. 7 members, including the Low Fertility and Aging Society Committee, the Economic, Social and Labor Committee, and the Regulatory Reform Committee, will remain under the President's authority. Outside, 21 committees belonging to the Prime Minister and 212 committees belonging to ministries will disappear through consolidation. The most common reasons for consolidation and abolition were similarity or duplication with other committees and poor operating performance, followed by simple advisory nature, long-term non-composition, reduction in the purpose and necessity of installation, and low participation of private members. The Ministry of Public Administration and Security reported to the State Council in July a plan to reorganize committees with the goal of reorganizing at least 30% of underperforming committees, the government said. A government official said, this committee is expected to save 30 billion won in budget. Chu Kyung-ho, Deputy Prime Minister of Economy and Minister of Strategy and Finance, announced on the 8th, to strengthen protection for young people preparing for self-reliance, the monthly self-reliance allowance will be increased from 300,000 won to 400,000 won, and new medical expenses will be supported. The government also decided to ease the property standards for livelihood and medical benefits to protect 48,000 households that are in danger of being eliminated due to the recent rise in house prices. A 24-hour emergency care support project was also established to alleviate the burden of care for families with developmental disabilities. Deputy Prime Minister Chu presided over the emergency economy ministerial meeting on the same day and decided to focus on providing support to the underprivileged, the low-income class, the disabled, vulnerable youth, and the elderly, children and youth as 4 core tasks. The budget for the 4 core projects has been greatly expanded from 65.7 trillion won in 2022 to 74.4 trillion won in 2023. Deputy Prime Minister Chu said, considering that the central government's available financial resources for next year's budget are about 9 trillion won, it means that 97% of the available financial resources have been invested in 4 core tasks. To this end, we have actively discovered new tasks that can solve difficulties in the field. The main project is to protect 48,000 households that are in danger of being eliminated due to the recent rise in house prices by easing the property standards for livelihood and medical benefits. A 24-hour emergency care support project was also established to alleviate the burden of care for families with developmental disabilities. In order to strengthen the protection of young people preparing for independence, the monthly self-reliance allowance will be increased from 300,000 won to 400,000 won, and new medical expenses will be supported. Recently, as the base interest rate has risen continuously and house prices have risen to a high point, the anxiety over tin cans has been added to this, and home buyers are turning their attention to private rental apartments. In August, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Korea raised the base interest rate by 0.25 percentage points to 2.5% from 2.25% per annum in consideration of soaring inflation and the $1 exchange rate. It is the first time in history that the base rate has been raised 4 times in a row in the same year, as an additional increase following the 0.5 percentage point increase in July and 0.25 percentage points each in April and May. As a result, the maximum interest rate for home mortgage loans has risen to close to 7%, increasing the loan interest burden. The real estate market is rapidly freezing as the perception of high house prices is spreading. According to data from the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, the total number of home sales in the first half of this year totaled 31,260, a decrease of 44.5% compared to the same period last year. In particular, as the number of transactions decreased and house prices turned to a downward trend, the KIN also raised its head, threatening the rental market. According to the Korea Real Estate Agency, as of July, there were 21 cities, guns, and gu areas with a jeonse rate of over 80%, 2 more than last month. According to the Housing and Urban Guarantee Corporation, the number of accidents in which the landlord did not return the deposit to the tenant after the expiration of the jeonse contract recorded an all-time high in the first half of this year, adding to housing insecurity. As a result, consumers are hesitant to purchase a house, and the anxiety felt in the Chunzi market is greater than ever, and they are paying attention to private rental apartments as a more stable housing alternative. Private rental apartments are guaranteed to be leased for up to 10 years, and the rate of increase in rent is also limited to within 5% per year as stipulated by the law. In particular, in the case of the jeonse type, the monthly rent is not added, so the burden on the tenants is much lower, and the rent is guaranteed by the Housing and Urban Guarantee Corporation. The threshold for subscription is low, and there are no detailed burdens such as acquisition tax, and property tax before conversion to sale while living in a new apartment. In addition, since you can maintain your homeless status, you can continue to try new pre-sale subscriptions, and if necessary for reasons such as moving, you can resell the pre-sale right. In addition, as it is constructed by a private construction company, it has the advantage of being much superior in terms of product quality compared to public rental housing by applying products and interior finishing materials similar to those of general condominium apartments. Prosecutors investigating allegations of corruption in the Songbangwol Group have seized and searched the Gyeonggi provincial office after they discovered allegations of bribery by Lee Woo-young, CEO of Kintex, a close aide to Lee Jae-myung, chairman of the Democratic Party of Korea. The Gyeonggi provincial government also received a search and seizure in connection with the investigation into the allegation of publicity of false information related to the alleged preference for Daejangdong development by CEO Jae-myung Lee the day before. The 6th Criminal Division of the Suwon District Prosecutor's Office sent prosecutors and investigators to the offices of the Communication Cooperation Bureau, the Economic Affairs Office, and the Peace Cooperation Bureau of the Bukbu Office to secure relevant data on the suspicion of bribery by CEO Lee Woo-young on the 7th. The office and residence of Kintex CEO Lee Woo-young in Goyang-si, Gyeonggi-do, and the Asia-Pacific Peace Exchange Association, a private North Korean exchange group located in the headquarters of Songbangwol Group in Yongsan-gu, Seoul, were also included in the search and seizure targets. It is known that CEO Lee Woo-young is accused of using the Songbangwol Group corporate card from January 2019 to September last year, when he was serving as the Gyeonggi Deputy Governor for Peace, and using millions of won each month for over 2 years. CEO Woo-young Lee served as an outside director of Songbangwol Group until just before he was appointed as Gyeonggi-do Deputy Governor for Peace. He was also reported to have been charged with bribery by the Songbangwol Group. Prosecutors are also looking into the circumstances of Songbangwol Group's support for circumventing events in North Korea and Gyeonggi Province along with the allegations of bribery by CEO Lee Woo-young. The Songbangwol Group is suspected of providing hundreds of millions of won to the International Convention for Peace and Prosperity in Asia-Pacific (CO) hosted by Gyeonggi-do and the Asia-Pacific Peace Exchange Association in November 2018, when Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung was the Gyeonggi governor. The budget for the support of the Asia-Pacific Peace Exchange Association reached 800 million won, which was more than the 300 million won budget for Gyeonggi Province. At that time, Lee Woo-young, who oversaw the North Korea project as the Deputy Governor for Peace, was also said to be close with former chairman Kim Song-tae, who is known as the de facto owner of the Songbangwol Group. In addition, it was found that the affiliates of the Songbangwol Group were promoting the North Korean business. Accordingly, the prosecution is expected to examine whether there was any cost in providing a corporate card to CEO Lee Woo-young and the Songbangwol Group's support for the Asia-Pacific Peace Exchange Association to bypass the funds for the Gyeonggi-do event in North Korea. An official from Songbangwol Group said, the amount of support for the Asia-Pacific Association in 2018 was about 300 million won. The Asia-Pacific Peace Exchange Association has sponsored not only events against North Korea, but also many public interest projects such as excavation of the remains of Korean War veterans and support for families of independence fighters. Well, he explained. Meanwhile, the Suwon District Prosecutor's Office's 6th Criminal Division is investigating allegations of embezzlement and breach of trust by the Songbangwol Group, and the Public Investigation Department is investigating the allegations of payment of attorney fees by Lee Jae-myung, leader of the Democratic Party of Korea, in the form of a joint investigation team. In addition, the 1st Criminal Division arrested and indicted an investigator belonging to the Suwon District Prosecutor's Office last month on charges such as leaking official secrets of giving investigation secrets to an executive of the Songbangwol Group. An executive who was handed over investigation secrets and a lawyer who was a former prosecutor were also brought to trial on charges of violating the Personal Information Protection Act. Writer Jin Jung-kwon criticized the Kim Gun-hee special prosecution law proposed by the Democratic Party of Korea as doing a comedy. Writer Jin appeared on the radio on the 7th and said this when the host said, "There aren't many public officials in the Airborne Division in relation to the provision that more than a third of the civil servants dispatched to the special prosecutor are high-ranking public officials." He said, "Isn't the number of people inflated?" He said, I'm not pushing because the Democratic Party is really a judicial matter and it is a matter that should be condemned for justice, but it's not doing it to water up Lee Jae-myung. Pointed out, he added, that's why it's not realistic. Regarding the size of the special prosecutor's team, he criticized, isn't what remains of the special prosecutor Choi Soon-sil's size. Writer Jin said, it is not known whether the statute of limitations has expired or not in the case of Deutsche Motors. The special prosecutor's bill proposed by the Democratic Party of Korea is the same size as the special prosecutor Choi Soon-sil, as the special prosecutor's team consists of no more than 100 people, including 4 assistant special prosecutors, 20 dispatched prosecutors, 40 special investigators, and 40 dispatched public officials. The preparation period of 20 days, the main investigation period of 70 days, and the extension period of 30 days are the same. Writer Jin said, it's a thoroughly political matter, and it's an extension of what came out during the presidential election. He said, first, it has to pass through the Legislative and Judiciary Committee of the National Assembly, but can the people's power pass through the Judiciary Committee, which is chaired by the people? He asked. Kim Song-ho, director of Think Why at the Political Research Institute, said, I think it depends on whether or not the conservatives can be persuaded. Lawyer Shin Pye-yong, known as President Yoon Suk-yeol's mentor, said, the criticism of Kim Gun-hee is an excessive political offensive, referring to Kim Jong-suk, wife of former President Moon Jae-in, as a comparison target. Lawyer Shin appeared on the broadcast on the 6th and said, I don't know what kind of crimes Kim Gun-hee is accused of. Regarding the Democratic Party's claim that the investigative agency is consistent with the investigation of taking care of Kim Gun-hee, he pointed out, comparing her fault with Kim Young-suk, which one can be said to be greater. He said, I don't know what First Lady Kim Young-suk is doing by traveling alone in the presidential plane, traveling to tourist destinations in India, calling the presidents of the chaebols to the Blue House, and meeting the presidents of the chaebols personally, he said. I don't know if my mistake will be the subject of such a big political offensive. When asked what kind of evaluation Kim Ji-yeonhee's Special Prosecutor's Office act as a legal scholar, he said, I don't know what kind of crime Kun-hee Kim has, but the allegations of thesis claims by some do not fall under the forgery of private documents and companions. Lawyer Shin said, forgery of private documents means that the name of the document is stolen, but it seems that Mrs. Kim Ji-yeonhee did not do anything inappropriate in such citations. He said, when I submit my resume as an adjunct professor or part-time instructor, I exaggerate a little bit. This raises the question of whether she is subject to legal sanctions, based on her experience as a professor for 20 years, he emphasized. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is speeding up the review of the bill by adopting the Special Prosecution Act as its party argument on stock price manipulation and false career allegations related to Mrs. Kim Kun-hee. It is known that the investigation target, scope, and procedure for designation of the special prosecutor are being coordinated in consideration of the existing bill proposed by her. On this day, Lawyer Shin evaluated President Yoon, saying, he has an excellent ability to empathize with others and has a good personality. He said, even if I had a personal relationship with President Yoon for a short time, I could immediately know it. In addition, I've seen experts evaluate the handwriting of President Yoon, and it was the same as I felt. He added, I saw experts analyze President Yoon's handwriting as excellent caring and empathy for others, a person who knows how to wait, and a person who has no accusation in character claimed. In the National Assembly these days, there are passport figures who get more attention than people's power lawmakers. This is Minister of Justice Han Dong-hoon, whom President Yoon Suk-yeol calls our Dong-hoon privately. Among the ruling party lawmakers, it is even said that on the day Minister Han Dong-hoon attends the National Assembly, our presence disappears. Minister Han Dong-hoon's attention is focused on because he is arguing day after day with lawmakers from the Democratic Party of Korea. Those who clash with Minister Han Dong-hoon are mainly members of the Democratic Party who are classified as strong-minded or have bad ties. Clashed with Democratic Party lawmaker Lee Soo-jin at a meeting of the Special Committee on Budget and Settlement of the National Assembly on the 6th. When Rep. Lee Soo-jin raised the theory that the AI legal film detection system developed by the Supreme Prosecutor's Office was useless in the so-called Second Room N case under investigation by the police, Minister Han expressed absurdity and said, what the prosecution reported to the police was that the victim reported it to the police. Is not it? I don't understand what you mean. The Two People's Studio became a hot topic in the internet community, and some responded that Rep. Lee Soo-jin does not understand the system well and is gibberish. Rep. Lee Soo-jin's side countered, Minister Han answered as if he had nothing to do with the prosecution, but this denies the Ministry of Justice's official apology for the nth room incident. Minister Han Dong-hoon had an emotional battle with Rep. Choi Kong-wook, who was involved in the Channel A case. At the National Assembly Judiciary Committee plenary session on the 23rd of last month, when Rep. Choi inquired about the prosecution issue, Minister Han set a date saying, it is strange that a member who is the perpetrator of my criminal case asks such a question itself. Rep. Choi was indicted on charges of distributing false information to the effect of collaboration between the prosecution and the media targeting Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon at the time of the Channel A case. Rep. Choi retorted, "If that's the argument, you are the perpetrator and I am the victim in the case of the prosecution of the high-ranking public officials." Minister Han Dong-hoon did not hide his displeasure by saying, "You." Minister Han Dong-hoon also bumped into Kim Nam-gik and Kim Young-min of the Democratic Party in the National Assembly on every occasion. On the 5th, Rep. Kim Young-min said, "The impeachment of Justice Minister Han Dong-hoon must be carried out quickly. The golden hour is not far away." Minister Han Dong-hoon said, "I will take the stand. The evaluation will be made by the people." Rep. Lee Soo-jin, Choi, and Kim Nam-gik and Kim Young-min, who had a clash with Minister Han Dong-hoon, are all members of the Democratic Party of Korea's Gangseong-yup, a group of lawmakers. Minister Han Dong-hoon, who is willing to clash head-to-head with Democratic lawmakers, is well received by the supporters of the passport as cider. Some say it is reminiscent of President Yoon Suk-yeol, who grew up to be a presidential candidate while fighting with former Justice Minister Chu Mi-ae and Democratic lawmakers during his time as Prosecutor General. A passport official said, "The fact that Minister Han Dong-hoon, who did not reveal his intentions for a political challenge, leads among passport runners in various opinion polls, is similar to President Yoon's situation during his time as Prosecutor General." On the other hand, there are a lot of concerns from some in the passports that the appearance of Minister Han Dong-hoon, who is too upright, looks in danger. Unlike immediately after the inauguration of the government, when the public opinion reaction was not bad, the public opinion on Minister Han Dong-hoon changed as the approval rating for President Yoon sank. Rep. Young-jin of People's Power pointed out during the phone call, in a situation where there is a growing cold reaction to the government, Minister Han Dong-hoon's sharp attitude may be cool to the supporters, but it can come as a feeling of fatigue to the middle class. Some analysts say that the situation surrounding Minister Han Dong-hoon is different from that of President Yoon, who served as Prosecutor General during the Moon Jae-in administration. Thank you for watching today. Please subscribe and set an alarm.